This is Unreal Engine 5. The game engine that is not only used to develop high-quality 3D games, but is also used in many other industries like architecture, film, and car design. I've never used it before, so now I want to challenge myself to learn it in just 1 week. My goal will be to have a complete game by the end of the 7 days. Since I don't know anything about the engine right now, my plan is to spend the first few days learning as much as possible and then use the remaining days to actually develop the game. So I started the first day by opening up Unreal and immediately felt very confused. I can't even move the camera, so I decided to learn the basics from YouTube videos. I've managed to find an hour-long course that I followed along, and thanks to that I was starting to get used to the controls and learned the absolute basics of the engine, like moving objects, modeling, and lights. And with that I was able to create a small level, even though I had some problems. This course also introduced me to blueprints, the Unreal version of visual scripting, which means you can program mechanics into the game without coding, aka you can create the entire games without writing a single line of code. I wanted to see what I can do if I only depend on the blueprint system, so I'm going to only use them for the rest of the week. The tutorial taught me how to make a door open just by using blueprints, which was unnecessarily complicated, but turned out to be very important later on in my journey. It's day 2, and even though I learned a lot about the engine from this course, I thought I'm going to watch one more, which was 5 hours long. This course was mainly about the environment and how to make your game look good, so mainly I learned stuff like post-processing, materials, and lighting. I also learned very important features like landscape, which can help you create terrain very easily. I also learned more about blueprints and was able to now rotate objects and ragdoll the main character. It took me the second and the third day to finish the 5-hour course, but now I had enough knowledge about the engine to start creating my first Unreal Engine game. I woke up on the 4th day and I started thinking of an idea that I can execute by the end of the week with the knowledge I got from the 2 courses that I watched. I knew that it needed to be a small game. After all, I only have 4 days to complete it and I just started learning the engine 3 days ago. So my idea was to create a first-person movement shooter with 5 different biomes, with mini-dungeons, 8 different enemies, with entirely different movesets, a boss at the end, and the main character to have abilities that can interact with different enemies and the environment. Yeah, I was a little too optimistic. I started working on the project by using the first-person template of Unreal Engine. This template comes with a gun that can shoot bombs and first-person character controller. To make the movement feel better, I need to understand how the blueprints provided from the template worked. However, I couldn't really figure out anything, so I watched more tutorials that can hopefully explain what I need to know. That's basically what I did for the rest of the day, so I hopefully can do some actual progress tomorrow. It's day 5 and I wanted to start adding stuff to the game, because if I wanted to complete it in time, I should start doing this as soon as possible. Unfortunately, I had a problem right away. I wanted to make my gun look cooler, so I found a free 3D model by Johan from the website Sketchfab and tried importing it into Unreal, but for some reason it was detached. I tried every extension and it was still broken. Then I searched on YouTube and found a guy who used Blender to fix the issue, and I didn't want to do that because I was lazy. So after trying to import an asset into Unreal for an hour, I finally found the solution. There was a setting that makes the asset combined when you import it. After I had the model of the gun in the game, I needed to combine it with the player's hands. Yeah, we need to get rid of the hands. Oh cool, that's even worse.
Baba Booey.
I think this time it should be pretty good. I mean, it's pretty close. After a while, I finally made it look decent, but I spent the whole day doing that, and at the end, I had a gun that doesn't even work. Guess tomorrow we need to make some changes. It's day 6, and we basically have a non-functional gun, and every functionality that exists in the game is made by the Unreal template I'm using. At this point, I started to think that I might fail the challenge because my scope for the game was way too big for a person who just started using Unreal this week. So I decided to change the idea of the game completely. I decided to go for a small map that only has few levels, and after each level you earn a power-up or an ability like a dash or a double jump. That sounds way more doable, especially after yesterday. So today I wanted to flesh out the basic mechanics. I started with the gun by making it shoot bullets, because that's what a gun usually does. Also, I added a crosshair to help the player aim properly, and to make the gun feel even better, I added some particles and made the enemies f***ing explode when they die. The only thing left was to add an animation to the gun when you fire it, but when I started working on it, I realized I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I watched YouTube videos, and for some reason, when I was finished with the animation, I couldn't export it. On every tutorial I looked at, there was a button to export it, and I didn't have that button. I looked up the Unreal documentation to see what was going on, and I couldn't figure out anything. I spent 2 hours trying to make the animation work, but I just couldn't figure it out. I started to doubt that I can finish the game on time, and was thinking of making the scope of the game even smaller. I only had 1 day left, and I wasn't even finished with the mechanics. Not to mention, I hadn't even started with the map yet. I was tired for today, so we'll see what happens tomorrow. When I woke up on the final day, I remember something that could fix the firing animation. You see, I've tried to make the animation work with the sequence editor, which is something really complex for me, and I have no idea how it works. So instead, I'm going to use what I learned on the first day, aka opening the door. I needed to improvise a little because the gun was not a door, but in about 15 minutes, I made it way better than I ever thought possible. Thanks to the door, now I had a newfound motivation, so I started making a lot of progress. First, I balanced the movement variables of the character. I made him way faster to make the game feel way more like a movement shooter. And now that I have the movement figured out, it was finally time to start working on the levels. I made a very detailed plan on what the map would look like, so I started with prototyping the first level. I was improvising with making all the levels because I didn't have a lot of time to think about level design. Thanks to that and the skills I learned this week, I managed to create levels super fast. I also made the pickup system really fast, so now when you finish a level, you also get a power-up. And there was only one more basic mechanic that I needed to add, a way to lose the game. So I gave the enemies the ability to shoot you with bows. With that and the second level completed, the game felt really good. So good in fact, I playtested the game for a little bit too much time. It was a little too easy though, so for the next level, I decided to add a totally new and original enemy, and because the difficulty was increasing, I gave the player a dash after the second level to help him dodge more easily. I made so much progress, but I was exhausted. I was doing this game the entire day, but I couldn't quite finish it. I wanted to make at least 6 levels, but I only managed to make half of that. I guess that's what happens when you overscope. I couldn't let this be the end though, and I really wanted to finish this game, so I gave myself an extra day to work on it. The next day, I locked in and I was determined to finish the game. I started by adding some new power-ups like shooting 2 bullets instead of 1 and a double jump. Now that the player is really strong, I started making the levels even more challenging. Even added a Dark Souls 2 difficulty to the last level. And after that, I completed the map. Now the only thing left is to polish the game a little bit. I added a cross on your crosshair when you hit an enemy, which made the game feel way better to play, but the map still looks like it's just a prototype. So I decided it's finally time to add some visuals. Thankfully, with Unreal you can download free high quality assets and materials with Quixel Bridge. I added materials to the walls and added some random assets like bones and stones to the ground to make the game look better. After all of that, I finished the game, and even though I didn't complete it in time, I still learned a lot, and I'm very happy with the progress I made in just 8 days. I mean, at first I couldn't even move an object, and now I was doing an entire level in minutes. The most important thing is that I learned enough to be comfortable starting a new project with Unreal. I was intimidated before, but this fear doesn't exist anymore, and for everyone who is scared to try Unreal, I can safely say it's way easier to start learning it than it looks, especially if you've used any other game engine before. I put a lot of Unreal tutorials in the description of this video that helped me a lot if you also want to learn Unreal and don't know where to start. If you have any questions, be sure to write a comment down below, and literally 0% of you are subscribed, so be sure to subscribe.